Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We will get you back inside of the courtroom in the missing son murder trial in our next hour. But right now, we want to turn to some big breaking news just in. British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell has been sentenced to serve 20 years in prison for her sex trafficking crimes. This had to do with the abuse of underage girls. She worked in conspiracy with Jeffrey Epstein, the late financier, also a convicted sex offender who committed suicide back in 2019, a month after he was arrested. Today, Ghislaine Maxwell's sentencing comes almost 2 years after her arrest. She was arrested in July of 2020. This is a case that has spanned several years and stretched across several different countries. I want to bring in now Court TV legal correspondent Julia Janae. She's standing by live outside of the federal courthouse in New York with the details. Julia.
Julie, good to be with you. As you mentioned, the sentence has come down. We first heard from the survivors in this case, then this former wealthy socialite. She addressed the court. The court then had the final say, 240 months, which equals 20 years for Ghislaine Maxwell behind bars. The judge first thinking that this was above the guidelines, and then it was actually brought to her attention by the prosecution. This is at the max of what the counts against Ghislaine would have carried. So 20 years to $200,000, that would have been the up to end of this. We know this is far beyond what the defense was asking for in this case. They wanted around 5 years. They said was an appropriate punishment, but the prosecution, they said that they wanted between 30 and 55. So neither side getting the exact number that they were looking for, but this is the final decision of the court. She did take into consideration not only these heinous, and she says heinous and predatory behavior that was proven in court by the prosecutors in this case, but she did consider the fact that this has been harsh conditions. She didn't use the word harsh, but that is what the defense has alleged are the prison conditions for Ghislaine Maxwell. She said it's been difficult for everyone since COVID, so she did acknowledge that in reading her decision in front of everyone inside of this courtroom here in Manhattan.
Julia, tell us more, if you would, please, about who spoke. Tell us more about these victims of the abuse, who spoke out before the judge, what was really moving, please.
You know, we heard from several of them today, four, in fact, and some were entered via written letters to this judge. But Annie Farmer is someone who was here inside. She was someone that we noticed walking in earlier today, so believed that she would be speaking, and she did take the stand. You could just tell by the way the judge even described in her sentencing how horrible this was for these young women who were manipulated, who were befriended by Ghislaine Maxwell, who believed that she was their friend and would be looking out for them. That seemed to resound with the judge, and we actually expect that we're going to hear from Annie Farmer when she leaves this courtroom today. As I also mentioned, after that, Ghislaine Maxwell herself, she actually spoke there inside of court. She mentioned that it's hard for her to address the court after hearing everything that these survivors detailed, but she said that her life has forever been stained by Jeffrey Epstein, but she stopped short of taking responsibility for these crimes.
All right, Julia Janae, live for us in New York City on this case. I know we're going to be talking a lot more about it as the day goes on here on Court TV. Thank you, Julia. Let me bring in my guest here on the show, criminal defense attorney John Mobley, standing by in Columbia, South Carolina. John, good to see you. Tell me your thoughts on the sentence. 20 years for Ghislaine Maxwell, certainly not what the defense team was hoping for, but it is less than what the state was hoping for, somewhat of a compromise by her honor. Your thoughts in terms of, is this fair, is this just for the crimes she committed, and to give these victims some bit of closure for what they endured?
Well, I don't think the defense had any real hope of getting a 5-year sentence in this case. I mean, you have this predatory behavior, you have the defendant being convicted at trial. I mean, just in general, as I've always said, if a defendant goes to trial and gets convicted by a jury of all of the counts that he's accused of or she's accused of, he or she needs to expect they're going to get sentenced on the high end of the range, if not the maximum and that's just the way it is. So I'm surprised, quite frankly, that the prosecutor didn't get what they wanted based on the nature of this case. So really, at this point, for the defense and the defendant, it's all about just getting ready for the appeal and hoping they can find some issues to get another trial.
Mm-hmm. You know, for Ghislaine Maxwell, this has been life-changing, you know, for her to have lived this life of luxury for so many years. And then since really almost 2 years to the day, almost, she was arrested in July of 2020, everything changed for her. I mean, she's been behind bars ever since the feds raided her home, arrested her. I remember she was hiding in the bathroom with her cell phone covered in tinfoil, John, because she wanted to remain undetected. And today, you know, I understand that from the reporting that we're reading, and a lot of it's coming out. We only had a few moments to talk with Julia there, but apparently, you know, she did apologize to the victims, but it didn't quite come off as sincere or extensive, according to the reporting I'm reading. You know, for instance, I'm seeing something from New York Post saying that she said, "I'm sorry for the pain that you experienced. I hope my conviction and harsh incarceration brings you pleasure." Your thoughts on that, John?
That was just an asinine thing to say. I mean, you know, I would just assume that her lawyers had somewhat prepared her for what to say at sentencing. I can't imagine they did not. I mean, sometimes it's better not to say anything, quite frankly. I mean, while it's always good to extend condolences, but to make a statement like that just gives you an idea of how just narcissistic this defendant is. I mean, you know, she's been convicted of being a serial sexual predator, aider and abettor over an extended time period. And when she goes to trial, and all these girls testify about what happened and about what happened to them, the comment she makes is sort of a backhanded, half-hearted, sloppy apology where she still has to make sure she talks about herself. And quite frankly, I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm surprised the judge didn't even give her more time, because that's just a complete just slap in the face. I mean, it's one thing not to make an admission that smart, because if you've been convicted, you know there's going to be appeal. You don't want to make any type of admission that could be used against you if you have a new trial. But to make a statement like that is just idiotic, quite frankly. And either A, her lawyers are idiots, which I doubt, or B, she's just someone that is just unmanageable and had absolutely no real remorse or sense of what she'd done.
Right, John. No, it doesn't seem remorseful at all. Seems very narcissistic to me, that apology, and certainly can't imagine it coming off very heartfelt. What these victims have suffered is truly disgusting. And through your practice in criminal court, I mean, you know what it's like to handle cases that involve allegations of sexual abuse, and you know what a victim experiences on one given day or throughout, you know, a period of time stays with them for life. It's not like the act just happens and then it's over. This is continual suffering after that. You know, I want to go back to the statement that the government issued at the time of this verdict. We have it here. Let's take a look at that right now. Let's put it up on the screen. The Southern District of New York. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a speech at a press conference. Apparently, they spoke out, the prosecutors, after the verdict. Let's take a listen to that. And then, John, I'm going to get your thoughts on the other side, please.
A unanimous jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell guilty of one of the worst crimes imaginable, facilitating and participating in the sexual abuse of children, crimes that she committed with her longtime partner and co-conspirator, Jeffrey Epstein. The road to justice has been far too long, but today, justice has been done. I want to commend the bravery of the girls, now grown women, who stepped out of the shadows and into the courtroom. Their courage and willingness to face their abuser made today's result and this case possible. I also want to thank the career prosecutors of the Southern District of New York, who embraced the victim's quest for justice and have worked tirelessly day in and day out to ensure that Maxwell was held accountable for her crimes. This office will always stand with victims, will always follow the facts wherever they lead, and will always fight to ensure that no one, no matter how powerful or well-connected, is above the law. Thank you.
And the judge said the same thing today. Apparently, nobody is above the law. Certainly not Ghislaine Maxwell. John Mobley, is this enough for these victims in your view?
I think it should be in this case. I mean, Epstein's dead. Maxwell's been convicted, so I think that's what they're going to get under the justice system in this case.